everyone. So I decided that I'm going to share my son's birth story. So my son's almost going to be 1 year old and I'm getting really emotional just thinking about it, that my baby is soon not going to be a baby anymore. So my plan was to have natural birth but have epidural because I'm horrible with pain, and I had a midwife. With midwives, there's 4 midwives that you see, and pretty much in your appointments you alternate or see them. But with me, one midwife I saw the most, and then there was another midwife that I guess I saw her more closer to the end. And then there was one midwife I only saw once in the beginning. I never saw her after. And then there was another midwife that was brand new, and she just started probably when I was already 30 weeks, and I saw her 2 times. So on Tuesday I decided to just take it easy. Actually, it was funny, after Sunday, I just had this feeling the baby's gonna come soon, even though I was due on Friday. I remember I was I should shave because if I give birth, I don't want to have hairy legs. So I remember I shaved and I was just distracted, and I actually realized after I finished showering, I forgot to shave the other leg. So it was one leg was hairy, one leg wasn't. But I was oh, who cares? I'll just do it another day. So on Tuesday, actually, was interesting is I felt okay, but I just took it really easy because my mother-in-law was here. She said she's gonna make dinner. So I was I'm just gonna lay around and relax. And I know in the morning we just went, because it was really, really hot. So in the morning we just took a walk near a river. And I know I was 39 weeks and 4 days. And I remember I just asked her, oh, can you take a picture of me by the water? Because I'm maybe this will be my last photo of me being pregnant. Because I just really felt I'm gonna have the baby soon. So I'm I need to take a picture. It was close to 8 o'clock. And all of a sudden, I just feel this gush come out of me, and it's really, really wet. And I was just jumped, and I jumped right away, and I was almost felt I needed to hold my pants so this water wouldn't leak. And I ran to the bathroom. And when I sat in the toilet, when I looked down at the toilet, I didn't see just water and clear stuff coming out. It was brown stuff. And I was is this normal? Whenever time I hear stories about people water breaking, they say it's literally water. It's just clear water comes out. And I was hey, I don't have clear stuff coming out. I have colorful, dark stuff coming out. So, and what's funny is I have a habit of bringing my cell phone everywhere with me. So I had my cell phone with me. So I started texting, messaging anybody who had a baby. And I was okay, when you're a water break, did this happen? Is this normal? With my midwife, they said if your water breaks and it's evening or nighttime, you don't need to call. Because they're it takes 24 hours to start getting in labor anyways. So I was well, I don't need to call them. And my thing was, I always, which is really funny, is I always prayed please don't have my water break, because I always was oh, it's probably gonna be so messy, and I was always scared the water's gonna break in my bed. And so I was always praying oh, I just want to be in labor, and then they break my water in the hospital. And of course my water breaks. And so I probably was sitting for a while in the bathroom texting people. And then all of a sudden my husband just went down and opened the bathroom. And I was I think my water broke. And he was what? And I'm can you bring extra clothes for me? So he brought me some clothes, and then I went in the shower because I thought I better shave my other leg. And then I felt really gross because it was gross stuff coming out of me. And when I was in the shower, it was still it was just constantly just dripping out water and brown stuff. So I shaved my other leg, and then I put on a pad, and then I dressed up, and then I went to my car because I actually left the midwife binder file with me in the car. And so when I took out the binder, in the front is listing things when to page the midwives. And it says, if your water broke and it is brown or green stuff coming out, you need to call. So I was oh great, I have to call them. So I just thought you're supposed to just call them and tell them, and they'll be everything's fine. And of course the midwife that called me back was the one that I did not know really well. So I kind of was oh great, is she gonna be the one dealing with me, because I'm not comfortable with her. And the funny thing is, this midwife is actually pregnant. So I was I thought it was crazy that she's pregnant and she's dealing with women who have birth. So I told her, explained her the situation, and she says, you have to go to the hospital and we need to check if you're positive, if it really is, I forget that name, but like that special stuff that's coming out, and if the baby pooped, she said it's serious and you'll have to stay in the hospital. So we went to the hospital. It was like 9:30 when we entered there, so it was exactly like pretty much 1 hour since my water broke. And when they took me into this kind of room where there's like other people and they just have curtains, and then she kind of just like got something to test like the stuff that's coming out of me, and then they did blood work and to see if it really is like the poop coming out. And she came back and she said, yes, it is, and you have to stay and we have to induce you. And I remember like just hearing that they have to induce me, I was just so upset. I was just like thank God I was so calm in the situation, but I was just really disappointed because I'm like, I don't want to be induced. So they're like, okay, you're gonna go in the gown, you're gonna get a room, and you have to go in fluids right away before they induce me. So I remember they put the IV in me already, and I was just laying in bed, and then I just had a gown and I still had my underwear with pad on. And then I remember I was like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. And it was funny, is like it was kind of uncomfortable to like walk, like pushing this IV with me while I had to go bathroom, and I'm like pregnant and like waddling. When I started walking towards the bathroom, I felt another gush come out of water, and I was like, oh my goodness. And this time, because I was just wearing underwear in the pad, like the pad could not even hold the water, like it was just dripping down my leg. So I awkwardly walked to the bathroom, and I think the midwife like just came, and I was like, my water broke again. So she was like, oh. So this time they just gave me a new gown, and they just told me to just lay without underwear on the bed, and they just put like, I guess it's like a pad that you just leave in the bed. It was probably like around 11 now, and then my husband was like, okay, I'm tired, I want to go to sleep. So he laid in that bed couch thing they had, and I remember I was just laying there just on my phone, and like I wanted to message a bunch of people, but a lot of people were sleeping, so it was kind of like I didn't know what to do. And then the midwife came to me and she said to me, you know, we're going to induce you soon, and before we induce you, do you want epidural? And I was like, well, I'm not even in pain. And when I came in, they told me that I was 2 centimeters already, and I was already having like a little contractions, but I wasn't feeling them. And I was like, well, I was thinking to be like a little bit in pain, and then if it's too hard to have epidural. And she explained to me like, listen, he's not always available, and he's available right now. Like she says, like within a couple minutes he's finished a C-section, and he's available to give you epidural. And she's like, if you don't take it now, he might not be available when you're in really, really bad pain. And she's like, oxytocin is really going to, like, it gives you very severe labor. So I didn't know what to do. My husband was sleeping, and it was like midnight, and I was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to do. When the doctor came, he was like, oh, we have to wake up your husband. And my husband had like no idea what was going on, and he kind of didn't want me to have epidural because he heard like scary stories of the side effects. So I'm like waking him up, and I'm like, I'm gonna get epidural right now. And it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he was like, what, like foggy, and he's like, why are you getting it? But he kind of like didn't argue with me. So he kind of just held my like shoulders and arms when I kneeled down, and the epidural wasn't scary at all. I was calm. It just felt like really, really cold fluid going in me. 2 o'clock is when they came and they gave me, when they started putting the oxytocin drops. And I guess, I don't know if it's because the midwife is pregnant. The midwife said she's gonna leave and another midwife's gonna come. So I was kind of happy. Like the other midwife, I had her like several times. She was like the second best that I like, because she was a very happy, encouraging person. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be happier now she's coming. So the pregnant midwife left, and the other one came, and she was just always by my side. Like maybe she'd leave like 15 minutes in the hallway and then come back and like watch my heartbeat and the baby's heartbeat and everything. And then around it was probably exactly like 1 hour, so it was like 3:30. All of a sudden, like when she was watching like the screen of like the baby heart rate, and I felt fine. I was just kind of laying with my eyes closed, relaxing, not sleeping really. And she just goes and she's like, can you move to the left? Can you move to the right? And she just puts this oxygen mask in me. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like, I feel fine. Why is she telling me to go back and forth, back and forth? And like, I hear that like the, you know, the baby's monitor machine, the baby's heartbeat like machine is like, it was quieter. And then she's just moving around the monitor to find the baby's heartbeat. And when she finally found it, and it was kind of like more steadier heartbeat, she was like more calmer. She's like, okay, you can stay still. And then she took the mask off, and I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, well, the baby's heartbeat was going really, really low. So she said, because your heart rate's going down, we have to get a doctor to come and check you. So I was like, okay. And this is all happening while my husband's sleeping, so he doesn't know anything. So now I'm like really alert, like, okay, what's happening with me? And the doctor came, and he just looked at my charts and looked at me and everything. And he said, well, it looks like he's reacting to the oxytocin. Maybe the umbilical cord is around his neck or something. He says something is distressing him, that his heart rate is going down. And it looks like it's normal when they turned off the oxytocin. So he said, I see you're contracting on your own a bit. So he says, we'll just leave it in a couple hours and let you contract on your own. But if your baby's heart rate keeps going down, you might have to have a C-section. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't want a C-section. So pretty much at 6 o'clock, she came to me and she said, we're going to start the oxytocin again. And that time my husband, I guess, heard the midwife, and he woke up. And so she started the oxytocin drops again. And I was kind of nervous, like, while they started putting it, because I was like, what's going to happen again? And when my husband came to me, he's like, hi, how is everything? And I was like, well, there was kind of a scare like 2 hours ago when the baby's heart rate was going down. They put oxygen on me. And he was like, what? So he kind of was just sitting there holding my hand and was worried. And like, pretty much it was like 15 minutes or something. And again, she's like, oh my goodness, the heart rate's dropping. She started having me move around again. And then she just turned it off because she was scared. And right away when she turned off the oxytocin, the heart rate was going back to normal. So she's like, I have to go talk to a doctor again. She's like, I don't know what's going on, but if this keeps happening, you're going to have a C-section. I told her, like, I really want a natural birth. She again got a doctor and informed him. And when the doctor came to me, it was a different doctor, and he checked my charts, and then he actually went and checked me down there. And he said that I'm 4 centimeters, and he says, you know, your pelvic looks like a good size. He goes, I think, like, we'll give you a chance. And he says, let's let you contract for 4 hours on your own. And after 4 hours, if it's not processing faster, then we'll give the oxytocin again. So I was like really happy. I felt relieved that what the doctor said. At 2 o'clock, they decided they're going to give me oxytocin again. And when she turned it on, again, the baby's heart rate went down. So she turned it off again. And she was like, I don't know what's going on, but I think you need a C-section. I'm going to go talk to the doctor. She's like, but I'm pretty sure you're going to have a C-section. I forgot to say that since I got that epidural, I never pressed the button because I just thought, like, I want to feel some pain. And especially if I'm pushing, I want to feel. I don't want to be completely numb. And so by the afternoon, I actually, like, when they would check, like, they put ice on you and they would check, like, if you feel it, I started feeling like the ice in my stomach. Like, they'd be like, oh, do you feel the ice? And I'm like, yeah, I feel it's cold. I feel it's cold. And my one leg completely, I couldn't feel. I couldn't even lift up. And the other leg, I could move it a bit. So after 2 o'clock, when the midwife kept saying, like, I'm going to have a C-section. And when I messaged all my family about, like, they're thinking of doing a C-section, and I said, please pray for me. And I remember my whole family, they said all of them started praying for me that I would have a natural birth and something would happen. And then after that, the midwife came to me and she said, the doctor's gonna take care of you, and he's experienced with this kind of situation where the baby's heart rate is a bit low. And so they transfer the care to nurses. And when the nurse would visit me all the time, it was like a different atmosphere. She's like, you know what? I'm going to put this monitor quiet so I didn't hear the baby's heart rate. Okay, I'm going to go check on Luca because he's crying. So this guy does not want to take a nap, so he's here with me now. Right, Luca? And then I was like, I'm really hungry. And I started getting really miserable at a point where like I was almost like telling my husband like, I want a C-section because I'm hungry. But then like I don't want a C-section because I want to give natural birth. So it was like I had mixed feelings because I'm like, I just want to eat. And so she's like, you know what? I can give you a popsicle. And I remember like when I got that popsicle, I was like the happiest person ever. And even my husband took a picture of me. And I was like, oh, I felt so good after the popsicle. I was like, that's what I needed. And I remember at 4 o'clock, I asked the nurse, I'm like, can you just check me and check how much dilated I am? And when she checked, she's like, you're 7 centimeters. And I just had this huge relief. And she's like, you're going to have this baby tonight. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm going to give natural birth. And so I text all my family and I was like, they told me I'm going to give birth. Like I'm not going to have a C-section because everything's going good. And I just remember like, thank you, Jesus, that like this went through and everything seems fine. So apparently my son's heartbeat was always a little bit lower, but it wasn't dropping. It was just like, it would go normal and then it would go a little bit down, but they said it's normal and the doctor and the nurses have dealt with it before. And all this time while we were just laying around and waiting, it was just so nice just having like me and my husband. It was just like the last time 2 of us together, and my husband was so good with me. He was just sharing funny stories or jokes like in the internet, showing funny pictures. The funny thing is, I don't know if this is bad or good advice, but like my one sister told me, she's like, you know what, like once I told my family I was 7 centimeters, she's like, you know what, she goes, when you have the urge to push, just push. Like when she goes, when you feel like you're contracting, do a little push and it'll open you up more. And I don't know if this is good advice or bad, but she said that she does her births and it made her dilate faster. So whenever I felt like a contraction kind of coming, because I did like, I didn't have pain, like severe pain, but I had really bad back pain, especially one side. My back hurt really bad and I couldn't lay in that side. It was like very, very uncomfortable. But I did feel like the tension all the time in my stomach, so I knew when I was contracting. So whenever I was contracting and I felt like it was kind of like my body was urging to push, I would push a bit. And my husband was so for it. He's like, yeah, push, whatever, like anything to make it faster. So I don't know if that made me like dilate faster or not. And I told the nurse, I'm like, can you check me? Because like, I want to push. And I didn't tell her I'm pushing because I know they don't like that. So she's like, okay, I'll check you. And she checked me and she's like, I see the baby's head. Like you are over 10 centimeters. And I was so happy. And then she just told me like, hey, let's practice 1 push and see how you are. So she told me to push and hold for 10 seconds and I did. And she was like, okay, that was a pretty good first push. And then I just said to her, I'm like, can you tell me like, if I'm doing the proper push, can you tell me so I just remember that feeling? And she's like, okay. So she's like, I'm gonna go call the doctor and stuff, so I'm ready to push. She was like pretty much the only one, and she's like, okay, let's start pushing. So I remember I was like probably in the middle of a push when my midwife came in, and it was the one that came in the first night. And I remember when I was pushing, she walked in and she was like, oh my goodness, Vera, you're having a baby, you're pushing. Like she was so shocked. Like I think she totally thought I was gonna have a C-section. And I kind of just ignored her. I was like really disappointed in the midwives. And I was really like focusing on the nurse. And honestly, I don't even know if I could have gave birth without that nurse. She was so good. And she'd be like, this is how you're pushing you're pushing correctly. So I just remember that proper feeling. And I kept thinking to myself, okay, I need to take a big poop. Because that's what people gave me advice, that if you think you need to, if you're pushed like you're trying to poo, that's how you push the baby out. And I remember while I was pushing, the doctor came in and then he kind of mentioned while I was pushing, like there's like a student doctor with him. So it ended up being I had like 4 people around me, the nurse, the midwife, the doctor, and the other doctor or student. And then my husband was holding one leg, I had to hold the other leg. And then they always kept saying like, put your chin on your chest. And I remember every time I would push, and then I had to hold it for 10 seconds, and then you have a breathe, and then you do the second push and a third push. And I remember every time by the 3rd push, I had to hold 10 seconds. I just couldn't. It was so hard. And even one time when I was holding my breath and pushing, like in the middle of it, I was like, whoa, and it made like a weird noise. And they were like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I just was so out of breath. I couldn't hold it. And I remember like each time I pushed and holding 10 seconds, I felt like that was like the hardest thing. I'm like, I never knew holding your breath could be so hard because I never ever like held my breath and pushed at the same time. And my husband was so good. I remember he would like, every time they would be like, keep your chin on your chest, my husband would like push me down, and he was like, I could feel he was like tense with me, and he was like holding my leg up higher. It was like almost like he was trying to push the baby out too. And I remember like while I was pushing, and I remember they told me like whenever you feel like pushing and you feel contractions, you do it. My contractions just kept coming back to back. Like I did not have like 5-minute breaks or minute breaks. Like I just like, okay, I'm pushing. It was like every couple seconds I was pushing. And I remember the doctor kind of mentioned like, oh, I think it's going to be a while. And I'm like, no, I'm going to have this baby soon. I'm like, I've been laying in this bed for over 20 hours. I want to have a baby like as fast as I can. And I remember they kind of laughed. So yeah, so I kept pushing and pushing, and I remember they were like, I started feeling like this kind of like burning feeling, and they're like, the head's almost out, like keep pushing. So when the head was like coming out, that was like, I only felt like burning, but my back was hurting the whole time. But honestly, I like ignored the back pain because I was more focusing on trying to push and like hold my breath. And I remember like a couple times my husband would give me like sips of water really fast to drink. And I remember I was just really hot and sweaty. So yeah, and then they were like, okay, one more push, just push out the shoulder. And there was one more push, and I remember looking exactly in the clock, and it was 8:30. And right away when the baby came out, right away I saw they kind of like lifted him up, and he was like upside down a bit, and he didn't cry. And then once they like lifted his head up, he started to cry. And I remember when I just saw him from across like of me, I was like, oh my gosh, he looks so big. And I'm like, in my mind I was like, I can't believe I just gave birth. And I remember I just had like a tear go down my face, and I looked at the doctor and I'm like, thank you so much for giving me a chance, for letting me give birth naturally. And he was like gave me a thumbs up, and I was just like so overwhelmed, like feelings, thinking like, I'm superwoman. Like I seriously felt like so empowered as a woman that I gave birth to a human being. And they just took him right away to the side and cleaned him up. The midwife did. So right away I was like to my husband, like, grab my phone, take pictures. It was funny, he was almost like stunned and like frozen, and I was like, take pictures of him. So I remember I was just laying there, and they started like cleaning me up and everything, and I was just kind of looking in the side, and they were cleaning him up over there, and I was just like wanted to see him because I only saw him from afar. And so my husband was like pretty much the first one that got to see him, and I didn't. And it felt like eternity when they were cleaning him. I was like, when are they gonna put him on my chest? I just asked the doctor, I'm like, did I tear? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, how much? And he just showed me 3 fingers. So I'm guessing it's 3 stitches. When my son was all cleaned up, and they're like, he's 7 pounds and 1 ounce. I was like, oh my gosh, he's so small. Like I thought he was like 8 pounds because he looked huge to me. So when they finally put him on my chest, it was like love at first sight. Like I just remember, I'm like, he's so beautiful, right? He's so beautiful, and you're cuter now. And I think I held him for a couple minutes, and they're like, maybe you should do skin to skin now, and check if he's gonna latch. I remember when I put him on my chest, he latched right away. And I was just like, I remember I just churned. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I feel like my mother instincts just came right away. It's the best thing, and I was just overwhelmed with love, and so happy that he's healthy. Right, Luca? You're such a healthy boy. And he's filled our life with joy. I was kind of disappointed with the midwives, just because they like had to keep calling nurses or doctors to help them. And I guess it's just because I found out after that the midwives were pretty new. But I know that the midwives were really proud of me, and they, because they thought I was going to have a C-section. And, like, she didn't say sorry or anything, but she did say, like, oh, I've never been through a birth like that where there's complications or anything. Well, that was my birth story, and thanks for watching. If you guys haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe and click thumbs up. If you want to see more videos of us, say